Last week in my Scratches review, I mentioned the Dyatlov Pass incident, where several people tragically lost their lives under inexplicable, disturbing, and suspicious circumstances. Well, game developer IMGNPRO, Imgen Pro, heard about Dyatlov Pass and thought, hey, that would make a fun game. And now we have Kholat, a horror game about a real-life tragedy. Bold move, guys. Very, very bold move. When we start the game, we get this very informative cinematic which tells us all about the incident and why it was creepy and scary and weird, and then we're kind of just thrown into the game. But more specifically, we're thrown into a small Russian town. We're not really given much direction, but, you know, the intro was enough to replace that. It gives us a general idea of, look for some mountains and wilderness because that's where the game happens. And that's enough for me. But it very quickly stops being enough for me when they plainly show that they had no clue how they wanted the game to start. So initially you're dropped into this town, fine, that's okay, whatever. But minutes after this, we're walking through some trees and caves and then we just kind of trip over, or I don't know, fall in a hole, or some other miscellaneous whoops moment, and suddenly we're teleported to a campsite. What happened? If you're gonna throw us into the campsite right off the bat, why don't you do it, you know, right off the bat? Instead we have this functionally useless town section beforehand. It's a very confusing setup. But when we actually get into the meat of the game, things do begin to improve. The first great thing that I noticed was the level of player freedom. The game clearly lays out a path for you to follow, but you can just turn around and go your own way. That's not too common in this kind of game. And as for the actual wilderness itself, it's pretty good. Every so often it throws a nice little subtle surprise your way. Like you'll be walking through a narrow passage and you'll suddenly realize what you're looking at. Ah! Those are some big skulls! Etc. What's not so good about the wilderness, however, is the enormous quantity of invisible walls that you can very easily get stuck on. Look at this clip. I walk into a rock, get stuck in an invisible pit, then get boosted out by some benevolent force. Thank you, Boost God. I love you, for I have no other choice. This kind of thing really takes you out of it. Like, why have all of these boundaries? Did someone genuinely look at this map of the Ural Mountains and say, yeah, this needs to be more inaccessible? Taking away our ability to jump was a step in the right direction for, you know, restricting movement, but they take it way too far with these barriers. Oh, you know, except for when they arbitrarily decide not to place barriers, like when walking off death cliffs that look identical to all of the non-death cliffs. Ugh, I'm having a very mixed time with Kholat, so let's talk about some of the good stuff. Number 1. The flashlight. Now, some of you will say that this is a very minor thing and it's not worth mentioning, but no, you are wrong. This is huge. There's a conspiracy mounting against our light-flinging friends. I mean, just look at this. What's going on here? That's not how they work. And this. Absolute travesty. And don't even get me started with this one, but Kholat actually does it pretty well. This is how torches work. I spend a significant amount of time in the woods at night looking for secrets and clues and mysteries and whatnot, and I can confirm that this is how it looks. Good thing number 2, the map and the compass. I just think they're neat. Good thing number 3, sound effects. Largely very good in terms of ambience, but the audio mixing is a bit whack. This landslide is the loudest thing on Earth. So, you know, there are some definite strong points to this game, but now I'm gonna talk about the bad stuff. Bad stuff number 1, the snow is a screen filter. It moves with the player, and that pisses me off on a primal level, and I'm not entirely sure why, but god damn it. Bad thing number 2, all of the voices are English. Not just in terms of language, you know, that's fine, but the actual accents are English. Everyone here is like, day number 36. The mountain is as cold as it has ever been, and the eldritch creature still haunts my nightmares. When in reality, they should sound more like, day number 36. I am still on the mountain, but, you know, it's not so bad, I am used to it. The main problem is the invisible demon ghost bastard that is following me around. And the other problem is this weird man from Scotland who insists on doing an accent he has no business doing, but, you know. Oh, sorry, did I mention the invisible demon ghost bastard? Because, yeah, I have some very strong thoughts about him. Those thoughts being, I do not like him, I do not enjoy invisible monsters, I do not like him. Every single section with one of these boys is an absolute chore, but thankfully they have some spectacularly lenient AI, so you have a fair amount of wiggle room. You know how I would fix these guys? Outright remove them. We don't really need more stealth-heavy horror indie games. There have been more than enough, and only a few were notably good. Implementing enemies also kinda kills your mysterious elements. Dyatlov Pass was a creepy event because of the questions it raised, and saying, it was actually a transparent skeleton and some ghostly sunny delight that did it, answers all of the questions in the least satisfying way. The movie The Blair Witch Project was disturbing because in the end, you still didn't really know what was going on. If they tried to explain it using a whole bunch of supernatural shit, it would have lost its punch. Oh wait, they did do that. Now you might say removing the enemies leaves this as just another atmospheric walking simulator. Well, just to remind you, the actual events of Dyatlov Pass occurred on a fucking hike. So yes, a walking sim would have been just fine, even though that genre is more than saturated. But then again, so is the stealth-based horror market. A series of other gameplay issues become apparent in this scene here. You walk into this opening full of bones and torches. Alright, good stuff, nice and creepy. You pick up a note and then, oh crumbs, it's a fiery skull. Again, this is all fine stuff. Then the big orange smoke monster starts chasing you, and this is where it fell apart. I died 3 times on this chase, and none of the deaths were to the monster. The first death came when a rock hit me in the back of the head. Okay, this is a trial and error type chase. Fine. The second death was because the game introduced platforming elements. Great, just what I want in my horror. And the third death was due to a very poorly placed chasm that is impossible to see until you are feet away from it. Now, I'm okay with difficulty, but I'm not okay with artificial difficulty. Unpredictable and unexpected environmental hazards can be okay, but not when you have no reaction time and they instantly kill you. They saw this atmospheric horror game and thought, you know what, let's take some inspiration from the likes of Hotline Miami and those particularly cruel Mario Maker levels. This chase isn't even over yet. You know how it ends? With you fast traveling away. Fucking hell, why didn't the real hikers think of that? Why are we running away from the skeleton ghost? We can just go back to the camp and fast travel all the way back to Yekaterinburg. To say that this game has an identity crisis would be an understatement. Half of it wants to be a relaxed yet eerie mountain exploration game, another half wants to be the hotel chase from Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth, and somehow there's a third half that wants to be insert stealth horror game here. That's what I wrote in the script, why didn't I put a game there? And it's a shame, because the exploration part is genuinely good. The weird freedom of movement problems excluded, of course. I'm someone who gets stressed a lot, and having a game where I can just go around and explore a dark Russian mountain would be my ideal de-stressing game. But with Kholat, I've got to worry about scripted events and enemies, which ruin that. As for the actual horror of the game, it's fine. It's nothing you haven't seen before. The scariest part of the game was this. Why did the music stop? And as for the rest of it, it didn't affect me much because somehow adding a whole bunch of supernatural stuff to Dyatlov Pass makes it less scary. To give you a window into my video making process, I write my script as I play the game rather than waiting until I'm finished. And I thought I was about halfway done with the script at this point, and then I died again. And that normally wouldn't be a problem, but then it loaded my last checkpoint which was made 30 minutes ago. That's when I realized, I'm done. There's nothing keeping me playing. Not even the dulcet tones of Sean Bean can entice me. And you know, I really wanted to like this game, but I simply don't. It's like Agony and Homefront had a baby with memory problems and an out-of-place English accent. I hate to say it, but I think Kholat is cursed. This may be my most controversial ranking so far, but good lord, this game is so unfocused. A lot of the individual elements work, but together they don't. And it goes there because of it. I understand many people like this game, and if you're one of those people, let me know. I always enjoy hearing other people's perspectives. And with all that said, thanks for watching. Join me next time for an adventure inside of a dead MMO. Goodbye.